A wonderful morning to everyone who've joined today's training session. On behalf of the entire ManageEngine team, I would like to thank our customers, partners, and users who have connected today against all odds. Let me introduce myself. I'm Pavitra, a product specialist with ManageEngine, and I'd be your trainer for today's session. First things first, I hope you're all keeping well and taking all the necessary precautions to stay safe. We at ManageEngine have been working remotely for over a month now, just like so many of you out there. In fact, I am hosting this webinar from my home. That being said, I request you all to bear with me and let me know in case you experience any audio glitches during this session. Also for today, we have panel members who'd be happy to help you during the course of this presentation. So if you have any questions, keep them coming our way. Remote work isn't just here to stay. It's becoming the new norm. The remote work revolution has been rumbling across industries for years now, and it isn't over yet. Flexible working is a done deal, but remote working continues to spread. So in today's session, we'll be covering the steps to be taken to ensure uninterrupted remote workforces. And this brings us to today's agenda. Let's quickly look at the ripple effects remote work has had on the IT department, which will be followed by the comprehensive action plan we've laid out for remote work. We'll wrap it up with the best practices and open the floor to questions. In one of our previous webinars, we conducted a poll to ask our attendees if remote work is a good fit for them, and a whopping 91% said yes. It's no secret that remote work is on the rise, more so now owing to the global pandemic. But a report by Upwork states that 73% of all the departments will have remote workers by 2028, and our area of focus for today will be the IT department. Probably this is pretty much an illustration of what most of you are tackling out there. You have remote workers connected from all corners of the world. Somehow, the onus is always on the IT administrators to keep the business operations up and running during times like these. And they grapple with a number of challenges, most of which we have covered in our previous webinars. Without getting much into the nature of these challenges, let me quickly skim through the challenges faced by the IT department. Setting up a work from home environment is in itself a huge challenge. This is followed by ensuring secure access to corporate endpoints. When this happens, your corporate network is susceptible to attacks and you have to ensure that you secure it. Ensuring employee productivity without patronizing the users is definitely one of the key challenges. Communication is beyond question a hurdle. And more often than not, the help desk is going to be inundated with requests, which calls for a seamless remote troubleshooting process. And last, but definitely not the least, an unpatched system is the last thing every IT administrator would want. Let me quickly walk you through how our product works. Desktop Central Server will be installed in your head office, and agents would be installed on all the endpoints that you wish to manage using Desktop Central. Distribution Server would be installed in one of your branch offices, wherein all the branch office endpoints will communicate with the Desktop Central Server through your Distribution Server. Roaming users will contact Desktop Central Server directly. But in order to protect your Desktop Central Server from being exposed to the internet, Secure Gateway Server will act as a layer between the roaming users and the desktop central server. This ensures that all communication from roaming users will pass through secure gateway server and then onto the desktop central server. This was about the architecture of how our product works. Now let's see how you can have remote work in place. If you have already configured secure gateway server, the endpoints belonging to your local office and the roaming users will seamlessly communicate with desktop central server because the IP address of secure gateway server is available to all the agents for communication. In case of branch office agents, you need to configure them as roaming users, which means all these days they might be contacting desktop central server through the distribution server. But now, since it is not recommended to configure distribution server as an edge device, you have to enable these agents to communicate with the desktop central server directly. Here's how you can do it. Before which, I would like to inform you all that by the end of this webinar, all the attendees will receive a document which has the detailed steps on the work from home setup. All the necessary scripts and the queries will be available in this document. But I would be demonstrating the steps now using the product. So before you configure branch office agents as roaming users, you will have to export the remote office details. And here's how you can do it. From the product console, click on reports and create a new query reports. So from the left pane, select query reports and create a new query report. So provide a report name. Basically, I am exporting my branch office details. So let's just say branch office 1. And the query that you will have to execute would be provided in the document. Once you paste this query, you can run the report and all your branch office agents will be exported. Now, after you've exported, you have to configure them as roaming users. Here's how you can do it. Click on the Admin tab and under SOM settings, click on Scope of Management. When you click on Scope of Management, you would be able to find multiple tabs. Select the Remote Office tab, which will give you a list of all the remote offices installed in your network. Now, you can spot any particular remote office that needs to be managed. So against the remote office, under the action column, modify the remote office settings and you will be able to find the communication details. So basically, what we'd be doing here is all the agents in this particular branch office have been communicating with desktop central server through distribution server. But now I would go ahead and change the communication type to direct communication. Thereby, I am configuring them as roaming users. So once this is done, modify the remote office settings. So this is how you can configure remote office agents as roaming users. If you have newly configured secure gateway server, you have to download and execute a script to provide the new IP address of secure gateway server to all the agents. One additional step you'll have to do in case of remote office agents is to configure them as roaming users, which is what I demonstrated now. So now we've ensured that all the remote endpoints are managed by Desktop Central. Now here's how you can identify just the work from home endpoints for easier management. There are again two cases, one in the presence of distribution server and the other in case of direct communication. If you have a distribution server, you will have to execute a query. The query will be provided in the document. But if the agents are communicating directly, you will have to execute a custom script configuration and then execute a query to identify the work from home endpoints. Let me show you how you can do this. So I'll again take you back to the product. From all the tabs that is available, select the Configurations tab. Under Configurations tab, from the left pane, you will be able to find Script Repository. So the script that I would be executing now will be provided in the document. I am going to add a script to my script repository. Basically, this is to identify the work from home endpoints. So here's my script. When I add the script, I should pass the script arguments as the IP address of Secure Gateway Server. Now once that is done, I will be sharing the script to the Desktop Central server and I will add the script. Now once you have added the script, from the action column, you can directly add a configuration. So as you can see, the script arguments would be passed, the script name would be provided. All you have to do is define the target computers. So once you define the target computers, you can deploy this configuration. Once you've deployed the configuration, you will have to execute a query to identify the work from home endpoints, for which click on Reports tab and again create a new query report. Now here I would be identifying work from home endpoints without distribution server, for which I again have a query. So paste the query here, and as you can see in the last line, I have a parameter for configuration name. You just saw the configuration that we had created, so you have to provide the name of that configuration over here. So the configuration name is work from home script. Once you're done, you can run the report, and upon execution of this report, you would be able to identify all the work from home endpoints. After identification of work from home endpoints, you can upload it as a custom column to create custom groups. Let me tell you how that can be done. So after you run the report, you can export it in terms of CSV and you can upload it. Click on the Inventory tab and from the left pane, select Computers. When you select Computers, you would be able to find a platform for adding custom field. So click on Custom Field and provide a name for the field, which is Work from Home Endpoints. Now basically what we're doing here is we have a report with all the work from home endpoints, but I want it within my console so that I can group just the work from home endpoints and I can target them for specific policies and tasks pertaining to work from home. For input format, choose file upload and you can upload the file name. Now this is how here I've already created a field name for work from home endpoints and you can go ahead and add. This is how you can identify all the work from home endpoints from within a single console. If you've got any questions until now, please do not hesitate to post them in chat. Our expert panel would be more than happy to help you. Let's move on to the various work from home scenarios. The first scenario is about managing applications. Let me take you to the product and demonstrate how applications can be managed and controlled in your remote workforce. The first step in managing applications is ensuring the presence of only the recommended version of each application. So you will have to create a custom report to ensure that only the recommended version is present on all your remote endpoints. Click on Reports and click on Custom Reports. When you create a new custom reports, you will have three options to choose your submodule. So basically, let's say I want to check for the version of Chrome, let's say version 1. And the submodule that I choose here is software. When I click on software, The column that I want is the software version, and the criteria should equal. Let's say you have one particular version in your mind, you can go ahead and add that version. When you have defined the criteria for the report to be generated, you can run the report so that you can see you can see the version of this application that is present on all your endpoints. If the recommended version is not present, you will either have to uninstall or install the necessary business critical applications. Let me show you how you can automate the deployment of software packages. Click on Software Deployment tab and click on Templates. Currently, Desktop Central supports over 6,000 templates. As you can see, we have 7,603 templates. Using these templates, you can automatically create a software package. Now let's say I want to deploy Notepad to all the remote endpoints. So go ahead and click on Create Package. So when you create package, all the necessary installation switches and arguments will be passed along with the package. Once the package is created, you can go to the package creation page and you can search for the package that you've just created. Let's say Notepad. So as you can see, we've just created a package for Notepad. Under action column, you can directly install the software by creating a computer configuration. So here, let me provide a name for the software package, which is Notepad. I have the package details. You have something called modify package. Let me show you what you can do using the modification of a package. You have options to define pre-deployment and post-deployment activities. For example, before you install Notepad, if you wish to check for the free disk space, you can just drag and drop this. And if you wish to check for the presence of this software already on the endpoint, you can drag and drop this. Now, when you click on check free disk space, you can define the disk space. Let's say I have to check if there is at least a minimum of 50 MB free disk space that is available on the endpoint. Similarly, for the software, I can check if the particular version that I'm installing is already present on the endpoint. If it is present, I can skip the installation. If it is not present, I can proceed with the installation. This is how I customize the software deployment process. Similarly, you can also define post-deployment activities such as after installation, you can choose to create a shortcut. And after you install, you can also make some registry level settings if required. Now, this is how I modify a package. Once you've modified the package, you can go ahead and choose your target. Now, as you remember, I have uploaded my work from home remote endpoints list and I have created a group just for work from home endpoints. Now, that is the group that I will be targeting now. I choose my domain as Zoho Corp. Once you choose the domain, you can filter them based on several criteria. One such criteria that I want to choose is the custom group. Under custom groups, I have created a work from home endpoint group. So this Notepad software will be installed on all the work from home endpoints. Go ahead and deploy the configuration. This is how you install or you rather uninstall applications as needed. During remote work, it is always recommended to empower the users to install and uninstall software at their disposal, rather than initiating it from the administrator's end, for which you can publish it to their self-service portal. Click on self-service portal from the left pane and click on publish software packages. So if you would like to publish the software packages, all you have to do is just drag and drop the software. Define the target like how we just chose work from home endpoints. And once you publish all the software, the published applications over here will be available at the end user's portal so that the end users can initiate installation or uninstallation at their own convenience. This way, you save you save your server from bandwidth bottleneck issues. When you give this kind of power to end users, it is always important to keep an eye on the usage of applications by prohibiting blacklisted applications and execution of malicious executables to secure your endpoints. Click on Inventory tab. So let me tell you how you can control applications. Under Application Control, click on Prohibited Software. Basically, you can enlist all the applications that need to be blacklisted. Click on Add Prohibited Software, and over here, let's say you don't want your end users to use uTorrent because obviously it leads to a huge spike in the bandwidth. So once you've added this list to the prohibited list, you can go ahead and save the list. Now, every time all the endpoints in your network are scanned, if uTorrent is present on any endpoint, you will be able to view the details. Now, what is the corrective measure you have to take if a blacklisted application is detected on an endpoint? The best thing to do would be automatically uninstall the blacklisted application. So enable automatic uninstallation. You can choose the number of applications you want to uninstall during system startup, and you can also choose to notify the users. But let's say you have disabled social media platform, all the social media applications in your network, but your marketing team needs access to these platforms in order to reach out to a broader audience. So how can they use the application in that case? In that case, you can enable the user to raise a request to use the prohibited software, and you would be able to see the list of all the computers that have the prohibited software and how many people have requested for using this software. The IT administrator at the end of the day can choose to either approve or reject these applications. If your employees are using mobile devices for work purposes, here's how you can manage applications on mobile device as well. If it's a corporate owned and personally enabled device, click on Mobile Device Management, and from the left pane, click on Inventory. So when you click on Inventory, you can choose to see all the applications that are installed on the mobile devices. Let's say you want to uninstall Facebook and Google Chrome. You can choose and you can blacklist these applications either for all the devices or just for specific groups and devices. But if the IT administrator wants to ensure that only enterprise approved applications run on all the mobile devices, what you can do is click on Management, and you have the option for App Repository. So under App Repository, you can add the necessary applications, and the applications added to this repository will be installed on all the devices. This is how you can have complete control over all the applications present on your remote endpoints. The next scenario is about securing your endpoints and your corporate network. Like I said, an unpatched system is the last thing every IT administrator would want. It is always recommended to assess your vulnerabilities before deploying the patches, especially during times like these when the deployment can happen anytime based on the user's environment. Here's how you can automatically assess and deploy patches for vulnerabilities. From the console, click on the Threats and Patches tab. You would land up on a dashboard. This dashboard will give you a complete summary on all the vulnerabilities and will also help you in assessing the vulnerabilities. For now, I have 195 critical vulnerabilities and 42 important vulnerabilities. You can also see for how many vulnerabilities a patch is available. Now, you have a concept for configuring your system health policy. Here's how you can do it. So when you click on settings, click on system health policy. You can define at what point a system will be marked as highly vulnerable and at what point a system will be marked as vulnerable. This is dependent on the number of critical patches that is missing or the important patches, the moderate or low severity patches. So right now, if 5 or more critical patches are missing in a system, I have configured the system to be marked as highly vulnerable. Depending on the need in your organization, you can configure the system health policy accordingly. Now that said, here's how you can create an automated patch deployment task to deploy the patches automatically. Under deployment, click on automate patch deployment and I will show you how you can create a task. So whatever your operating system is, you can choose the operating system accordingly. I would like to deploy just the critical security updates and the type would be service packs and rollups. Do I wish to patch all the applications or just specific applications, or do I wish to patch all the application except a bunch of few applications? So I have the liberty to choose the options. Now I wish to patch all the applications. So go ahead and choose the updates. The next thing you have to do is choose a deployment policy. See, it is always advisable to use different deployment policies for different users, different branch offices, and different endpoints. And it is not recommended to have the same deployment policy because it will definitely cause bandwidth bottleneck issues. So once you've chosen the deployment policy, go ahead and define the targets. Now again, my targets here would be just the work from home endpoints. So choose the compute custom group and select your target. Once you've selected the target, you can configure notifications. That is, the IT administrators can be notified on the patch deployment status. So once you create the automated patch deployment task, you would be able to view the status on the patch deployment. Let me show you. So as you can see that over here, the patches have been deployed to 2 machines and are yet to be deployed to 21 machines. So this is how you can automate patch deployment process. Now, rather than under any given normal scenario, all the agents would contact Desktop Central server for downloading the patch binaries. But in this case, you never know when the users or when the endpoints would come in contact with the server to download the patch binaries. So you can empower the agents to download the patches directly from the vendor's website. Let me tell you how you can do it. Under deployment, click on disable automatic updates and you will have an option to enable agent to directly download patches. So create a configuration. When you create a configuration, all the necessary parameters would be pre-filled. All you have to do is just define the target. So again, here my target would be work from home endpoints. What am I basically doing is, for all the endpoints that are working remotely, I am empowering the agents to download the patches directly from the vendor's website instead of contacting Desktop Central server to download the patches. This way, you can optimize the bandwidth and enable the users to deploy patches at their own convenience. So this is how you can assess and deploy patches. Another important avenue of securing your endpoints is securing and managing the browsers used on each endpoint. Click on Browsers tab. Now, browsers are an inevitable endpoint used by every employee. You have multiple policies to secure browsers. So from the left pane, click on policies and you can see you have multiple policies. One such policy is the data leakage prevention, wherein you define all the necessary browser settings to prevent the leakage of corporate data through browsers. So let me just give it a name saying work from home policy, and you can define the browser specific details and save the policy. I wish to disable most of the browser settings for security reasons because data leakage through browsers is one of the most common avenues of a security breach in an organization. So once I'm done configuring the policy, I can go ahead and save. I can save this policy and associate this policy with my work from home endpoints. It is beyond question that while working from home, employees will access sites that are not related to work. In such cases, you can isolate your browsers by containerizing untrusted sites in a virtual browser away from the trusted sites. So, any downloads and browsing activity performed in the container will not affect the enterprise sites opened with the normal browser. This will ensure the security of enterprise data. Now, provide a name for this policy, and you can choose to apply this policy to all the website, or if you've grouped the websites to one particular group. So you are basically adding all the websites that are trusted and that will be rendered using normal browsers. Any other website that is not mentioned in this list will be rendered in a virtual browser that is completely isolated from the normal browser. This way, you can secure your enterprise data. So that was about fortifying your endpoints against cyber attacks. Let's move on to the third scenario for today. The pressing need of managing a remote workforce is to monitor employee productivity. But the key to ensuring employee and overall workplace productivity is not to patronize your users, and at the same time, you shouldn't leave them to fend for themselves either. Let me show you how you can monitor employee productivity in your remote workforce. So, from the product, click on reports and you would be able to find user logon reports. With the help of user logon reports, you can see the currently logged on users or the currently logged on computers, and you can also see the history of user logon. This will help you in monitoring the productivity to a certain extent. You can export the report and use it for analysis purposes. Another aspect of monitoring productivity would be the power management reports. Click on power management reports and you can find the system uptime report. As you can see, one particular computer has been up and running for 3 hours and 58 minutes but has been down for 20 hours and 2 minutes. This will again help you in identifying the system usage time of your employees. The third aspect would be, let's say you have particular enterprise related applications that your employees can use for work. You can monitor the usage of those applications, which is a way of monitoring your employee productivity. So click on Inventory tab and I will tell you how you can monitor the usage of applications. From the left pane, select Software Metering. You can add and you can define rules based on the application in your organization. But when you click on Software Metering Summary, you would be able to view the usage count and the usage duration. As you can see, I've created a rule and this rule, this application has been used for this duration. Using this summary report, you can see the time duration that each employee has invested in that particular application. You can also track the user's web activity by keeping an eye on the time that is being spent on unproductive websites by tracking the websites visited by users. This is how you can monitor employee productivity. So moving on to the next scenario, with remote workplace models on the rise comes the need to address the technological hiccups faced by every IT administrator during a remote troubleshooting session. More often than not, admins may encounter users who aren't technically sound or don't have the devices on hand when trying to troubleshoot. In cases like these, the admins may have to resort to traditional troubleshooting methods such as emails or phone calls. And troubleshooting these endpoints without user intervention becomes a cumbersome process. But you can gain unattended remote access in such cases. Next, the availability of dependent files while remote troubleshooting is of paramount importance. Without these, the admins have to either dispense all the files beforehand or initiate a new session after transferring the files onto the target machine. Besides becoming taxing, the end user also feels that troubleshooting is a long drawn out process. Instead, you can enable a two-way file transfer option to transfer the executables, necessary drives, and files while remote troubleshooting. That is, during a live session, you can just drag and drop files onto your target machine. When troubleshooting remotely, admins often need to communicate with the end user to provide instructions or procure information pertaining to the issue at hand. It becomes tedious and time consuming to contact the end user separately. Instead, you can leverage the built-in communication chat channels for initiating a chat, voice, or video call while troubleshooting. Let me take you to the product and show you a few aspects of remote troubleshooting. So choose the Tools tab and you can see you have options for remote control or power options such as remote shutdown, wake on LAN, and broadcasting announcement. So when you click on chat, you would be able to initiate the chat with any end user. You can also view the history of chat scripts present over here. I'll tell you when announcement would come handy. Communicating with the end user is always a big hiccup, but in times like this, it becomes even more difficult to convey a message to all the users uniformly. In such cases, click on Create Announcement, provide a title and message. You can also define the window within which the announcement will be displayed on all the end user screen. Define the frequency, define the target users, go ahead and publish the announcement. This is how you can broadcast announcements in an organization. Let me show you few options available within remote control. So when you choose remote control, you can see all the computers present in your network and you can see which computer is currently up and running. If the computer is down and if you still want to troubleshoot, you can use the Wake on LAN option present here to wake the computers before deploying the application. This history will show you the start time and end time. Also, the entire remote session would be recorded and you would be able to download the video. This will help you in auditing purposes or if you have to train your junior technicians. So you have to enable screen recording to be able to record the entire remote session. If user privacy and security is a concern to your organization, then this is just the setting that you're looking for. Every time before you initiate a remote session, you can confirm that the user will always be notified and will be requested before initiating the remote session. This will help you in ensuring the privacy and security of the users. That was about remote troubleshooting. This brings us to the final section of today's webinar, which is best practices. Number one, it is advisable to create exclusive work from home related policies based on the grouped users or remote offices or endpoints. Every time you configure a deployment policy, customize it in such a way that it will cater to all the users' requirements rather than having just one policy for all the users and remote offices. So create as many deployment policies as you can. Always stay up to date by subscribing to alerts and scheduling the generation of reports. This will help you, trust me, this will definitely help you in acting proactively rather than reacting to the consequences. These days, it seems as if everyone is talking about remote work, but remote isn't as new of a trend as we think it is. Remote work has been here to stay for years, but it's only now that we're paying attention to it. Though it's fraught with challenges, we are in this together. We'd like to extend a helping hand to organizations out there who are coming to grips with remote work. If you'd like our technicians to help you in setting up your work from home environment or help you through a few scenarios, or if you would like to see the demonstrations of few more scenarios that you have encountered, please feel free to reach out to us through chat. We'd be happy to assist you. If this session has been useful, rate us on a scale of 1 to 5 with 5 topping the scale. Thank you everybody for connecting today. Stay safe and stay indoors. We're now opening the floor to questions. Keep your questions coming our way. Thank you.